what. So it's interesting because I woke up and I was working on a few things, thinking about the topic today, and then everything stopped working, right? Uh, and it kind of works along the lines of I was planning on talking about today, because had I not had a backup system in place that should something go down in this world we live in, where we rely so heavily, our entire businesses, a lot of our businesses rely so heavily on the internet. I mean, I can't even imagine. I barely made it on as it is. And so if I didn't have a system to back it up, just like Nikki was saying, I thank God for our hotspot, because otherwise she wouldn't have been able to get on either. Okay, so what is the topic for today? Today, the topic is literally called Systems Will Set You Free. Free from the challenges in life, free from internet going down, free from uh, basically the shackles of what most of us get stuck in when it comes to our business. And the reason why this is such an important piece to address is when I talk to my students and clients about one of the first things they need to do after getting themselves congruent with themselves and understanding about what their unique code of success and happiness is, we explore the system that they have in place that have, or lack of systems, so that they can scale their business, scale their money flow, scale their life. And the reason why I was taught by many of my teachers and mentors in the past, and I continue to pass that teaching on to a lot of my students and clients, is that phrase: the systems that you have in your life will set you free. The lack of system will keep you stuck. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about why that is. When you have systems in place, it creates a high level resiliency in business. Now, if some of you are listening to this right now, and I'm going to have to switch back and forth if I look at Q&A, but if you're already thinking about, no, I can't do system, it feels so stifling and it feels so restrictive, I can't do routines, then there may be something there that is motivating that perception that will literally keep you from growing, keep you stuck. Time and time again, I've seen this over the years with students and clients with their businesses, and how part of their biggest struggle is because there's an up and down effect in their business. When the world happens, their business happens. When the world is great, the business is great. And so when your business and your money flow reflects what I like to call the world flow, then you're not really independent. You're not really free. You know, the theme I've been talking about this past week, because in light of like 4th of July and everything, so hope everybody had a great weekend, was independence. And independence in a sense of whether or not our money flow or our life's flow or our lifestyle is independent of what happens in the world. Okay? When we're not independent of the world challenges, or when world stuff happens, that's when we should take that opportunity to take an introspective look at everything that's happening. Whether or not you have the systems that set you free from, or create a level of independence from what's going on in the world. Okay, we talked about it weeks ago, if not a couple months ago, about staying on par during these times. Systems allow you to pivot. They give you pivot points. When you create systems in your life and your business, there are literally points that are revealed that you can easily pivot on. You know, a lot of people have challenges around pivoting during challenging times because they don't even know where to pivot. Okay, if you don't know where to pivot, for example, in something as simple as basketball, you'll be called for traveling because you're over pivoting. You're pivoting on one point, then you shift to another point because you don't know where you should be pivoting. Okay? For those of you who don't know basketball, you should only pivot on one foot when you're holding the ball. Otherwise, it's a foul. So what you want to do is understand that systems will give you pivot points. Systems will also give you areas of where you can learn to adapt to certain circumstances. One of the questions that keep coming up during these times is like, well, how do I adapt to these times? How do I adapt to what's going on? Well, if you have a system in place, a routine for your marketing, a routine for your operations, a routine for your business, a routine for your lifestyle, a routine for your self-care, then you'll know where you could adapt, where you can adapt. Okay. I know, for example, one of the ways that I adapted was making sure as soon as it started to happen was that my phone speed was at the best I could get from my provider. Okay. And then to make sure that I also talked to my internet provider to make sure I up the broadband speed, because I was going to be doing everything mostly on the internet. Okay. I adapted to the circumstances by reaching out to these providers to make sure, well, Frontier is down now, but at least I have my phone to make sure there's enough broadband, or there's enough connectivity, so that there's minimal hitches when something does happen. Okay. And as for resilience, systems will also help you create a level of resilience. Okay, what is resilience when it comes to another way to say resilience during challenging times is how bulletproof are you in your life and your business when stuff happens. Okay, when stuff hits the fan, okay, or when poop hits the fan, how resilient are you? How able are you to basically bounce off of that, get up and go? To determine how that is, you look at your systems, okay, that you have for both life and business, so that if something happens, you can identify where in this system your focus needs to be to make sure it starts to hum along again. Okay. Why assembly lines work so well is that if something falls apart and there's QCs at, quality control at each of the assembly points, if we start to identify there's some flaws in the product, it's really easy to break down the sequence in the system to find out where in that sequence that our attention needs to be to fix the problem. Okay, so it's easier to create resiliency in your business. It's also easier to create resiliency in your life. Now, again, some of you may not be driven with creating systems and order and being in routine, and doesn't mean you can't utilize these principles. And I'll explain a little bit later when I work with clients who are absolutely turned off, or actually it drains them to create routine, because there definitely are many of us out there who are not driven by systems and orders. And so there's a high level of resistance around it because there's legitimate energy depletion, so to speak. You get tired, you get exhausting when you have to create systems and routines. So I'll address that in a little bit. For those of you who understand the concept of KPIs, key performance indicators, okay, if you are an entrepreneur, if you have any business of sorts, not having KPIs in place means they're not really thinking, it's almost like a hobby. You're not really thinking about growing your business. What are KPIs? Key performance indicators are indicators within your business that lets you know, okay, performance indicators that indicate whether or not your business or your life is performing. Believe it or not, we can also have KPIs in our lives, okay? What are the milestones in your relationships? What are the milestones in your health and fitness? Health and fitness, people do it all the time. They set KPIs in terms of the metrics of weight or body fat content or strength in the gym. Okay, those are KPIs in life as well. Okay, so when it comes to KPIs, it's not just for your business. So having a system will make it easier for you to identify what those key performance indicators are, because within those systems and processes, there are steps, step 1, step 2, step 3, which if you have those established and you're following them diligently, it will reveal areas where you need to put your attention to record and collect the data and the statistics. So it makes it easier for you, and if you have a team, for you and your team, to continue to focus on what is necessary to grow your money flow, to grow your business, to improve and advance and move your life forward. Okay? So that's an important thing to understand about why systems are so important, because it makes it easier to develop those KPIs if you don't have them already. And so so those are what we call, what I also like to call optimization points. Okay? One of the biggest things that I've been coming to a realization lately is, a lot of people have referred to me as like a business coach or business consultant, but really what I am is what's behind the business. What's behind every business is human, a human genius and human talent. Okay, so a lot of what I end up doing is what we call human performance optimization. If you optimize the performance of a human being, their business will naturally thrive. Okay. Think about that for your business for just a moment. Systems will give you optimization points, but more importantly, it gives you an opportunity to work on you. That freedom to be able to optimize self, Okay, that is the number one place to go when it comes to improving your business, improving your money flow, improving your life, improving your relationships, improving your health, is to optimize your personal performance output. Okay, and not just from a physical standpoint, from a mental, emotional, and energetic output. How well are you managing your energy throughout the day? How well are you managing emotional baggage or emotional baggage? Oh, how driven are you emotionally on the decision that you're making in your life? Is it based on emotional challenges you've had in the past and you're now projecting the present into the future? Or have you let so also you have that you have running all the same who are challenged around systems and everything like that. Your entire life is based on that. You make it's based on when you decide to do something, when you have your reaction to something, when you're interpreting something, having a perspective on something as an adult, you know how to do that through a series and a collection of systematic circumstances and routines that you've experienced in life. So systems will help you kind of identify what those optimization points are so you can start to optimize your performance output. So what are some of the systems? Okay, let's talk about what some of the systems are so that you can immediately think about that this week on how to basically create more freedom in your life when it comes to growing your business, growing your money flow, and improving your lifestyle. Okay, there are two basic components. Okay, there's activities and there's the temporal state of existence. In other words, time. Okay, they have time and activities are the two main areas that you want to focus on first when it comes to developing systems. Okay, let's talk about time. Okay, everybody has a finite set of time, and I'm sure many of you have heard this before if you've read any level of personal development, self-help books, or even working on business books. I think in the real estate industry, there's a big sector that just focuses on personal development. One of the things they talk about is time management, and many of us have heard that before. Okay, so let me share a little bit about understanding how time has evolved since the beginning. See, before clocks and sundials even, time was based on the circadian cycle. In other words, when the sun rose, people got up because we could see. When sun set, wild animals come out. So to be safe, we don't hang out outside. Okay, that's how human beings were able to survive. They based it on time, based on some external factors. Okay? Now, what was interesting is before there was time devices, okay, such as our phones and our watches and even sundials, there was always a human being. Okay, there was a human being involved with time. In other words, in the village, there was always a village leader or a shaman or some chief or whatever the case may be that basically was managing time for the rest of the village. It's time to go gather the fruits and vegetables. Okay, it's time to go hunt. It's time to bring the kids in because it's getting dark. It's time to start the fires. There was always a human being during those times to basically make sure that everybody stayed on point. So when the first human being decided that he would help everybody in the village survive by managing time, our species started to personify time. And that's why you hear about people talking about father time or Chronos, which is the god of time in Greek mythology. There was a sentient being associated with time. The challenge we have right now is when we have inanimate devices responsible for telling us time, we have kind of weakened our ability to really kind of have that relationship with time. See, the relationship that we have with time is critically important in creating systems around time. And so oftentimes you've violated these agreements. So what has taken the place of these external human beings that tell us what to do is there is a part of our unconscious mind deep inside that is literally responsible for kind of helping us understand time. And in a sense, one of the things that we do to help our students and clients improve their relationship with time is about improving that part of your unconscious mind that is responsible for time. That part is actually driven by experiences and our stories in our past of how we regard time, and then we develop strategies around that to use time in the best way possible. So when you look at these really successful and happy entrepreneurs out there who manage 300 companies plus companies, such as Sir Richard Branson, in the same amount of time every single day as some of us who only manage one business and we're struggling, we kind of have to wonder what's the difference. And the difference is that you have a systematic approach managing time in the best way possible. If you are not using a calendar right now to manage the time in your day, if you have a business, okay, and if you're a realtor, you are your business, then you are literally handicapping yourself in terms of optimizing the systems around time. You could use time blocking, you could use reminders, all these different things. Time blocking is one of the most powerful ways for you to tame what some of us may have, just like a beast of a time just basically run away from us. Then what you do to tame that beast, so to speak, is to create this structure. You block off single threaded task activities throughout the day, and you never plan an activity without actually putting it on your calendar. Okay? There are so many different systems out there. There's so many different techniques, but really important, there's no excuse today to not use a calendar. There's a calendar on your phone. You can't say you misplaced your day runner, for those of us who remember what those are, or planner, because you can always use your phone. Okay? You could use your computer. You could use your tablet, and even if there's no internet, you could still look at your calendar. Okay, the nice thing about the technology we have today, that when the internet is down, doesn't mean we can't still use our systems, or we can't use our technology. Okay, so time is one of the most powerful, one of the best systems where you can start creating routines around your day to create scalability in your business and in your life. Yes, do you want to scale your life? Yeah, I mean, you want your life to be improving, okay? Now, let's move to the next point of what type of other systems you want to have in place, and those are activities. And I want to introduce you to a couple acronyms that we basically entrench in all of our students and clients. One of it is called RPA. So for those of you who are taking notes, you want to write that down, RPA, okay? And then the second thing is called BBA. And these are very important things for you to categorize in your daily activities, because a lot of times when we don't separate the RPAs and the BBAs, which I'll talk about what they are in a moment, that's when we get stuck and we get caught up in activities in a day and we realize we haven't done anything for our business to move it forward in a powerful way. The systems that you want to create around RPA and BBA are such that the RPA stands for revenue producing activities. And how you know your activities are revenue producing activity is that after that specific activity that you're doing, that you hopefully time block out of your calendar, okay, either 1 to 2 steps away can lead to revenue flow, okay? For example, going out, I mean, back when we can easily do that, but when we're going out to networking, okay, is that a revenue producing activity, or what we call a BBA, which is business producing activities, or BPA, business producing activities, okay? No. BBA is business building activities. I'm sorry, not BPA, BBA. BPA is the name of one of my clients' business. Okay, BBA stands for business building activities. So when we're talking about revenue producing activities, like for example, networking, okay? Has it ever happened that you've gone to networking, you talk to somebody and they immediately say, you know what, it's a total fit, let's sit down and talk, I want to hire you, okay? It doesn't happen all that often, but the potentiality is there, which categorizes networking as a revenue producing activity. Another revenue producing activity is to follow up on your old clients, following up on leads and potential prospects. That's a revenue producing activity, because when you follow up on a prospect or you follow up on a lead and you do a good job having that sales conversation, the next step is what? The next step is a sale. Okay? So that's revenue producing activity. Those are RPAs. Let's talk about BBAs. What are business building activities? Okay? A business building activity is working on your website. Working on your website, or getting caught up in building a business page on Facebook. Okay, those are important activities, but if you occupy your days with business building activities, your business will have a hard time moving forward. Okay, so it's not to say that you shouldn't have business building activities, but if you are wanting to increase your money flow, if you're wanting to grow your business, the majority of your day should be spent on RPAs and with a sprinkling of BBA throughout the day, just to make sure that you have those things covered. When you're dealing with systems and processes around operations, that is a BBA activity. That is a business building activity. Okay, when you're, believe it or not, when you're taking care of existing clients, okay, that is a business building activity. And so if the majority of your day, if you're in a type of business where you're taking care of clients, or, you know, to be honest, as real estate agent, there's not a ton of that type of activity. But here's the thing is that when you have your days occupied with, and this happens a lot, okay, so for real estate agent, this happens a lot where you end up having a lot of deals in the pipe, and your days are occupied with pushing those deals through. Okay, when you have 5 houses in escrow, great, that's fantastic. Okay, if you want your business to grow, then guess what, you still have to find a way to make sure that those business building activities, which are houses in escrow, okay, you got to find a way to develop a system so not the majority of your days aren't being caught up pushing deals through to completion, because those deals are already in the pipe. They're already in escrow. Yes, granted, they could fall out of escrow, whatever the case may be, but those are no longer revenue producing activities, because as long as you're doing things right and as long as you're having systems in place, those deals are going to close. Okay. One of the biggest things I've had to do with some of my clients who have a team or have an assistant is to offload the business building activities of pushing houses into that are in escrow to closure, so that they can continue to focus on RPAs every single day. We see this as a systemic problem in the real estate world, because that's where we got agents who have, you know, it's like feast or famine. They're like, all these deals that close, and they're going to say, oh my God, I have to start all over again. I have to go process and knock on doors. That up and down sensation is a function of a variety of different factors, one of them which is not having a system of continuous and consistent RPAs in place that you use every single day. And so the ratio you want to look at, okay, the fundamental ratio is basically 3 to 1. For every 1 business building activity you do during the day, you should have 3 revenue producing activities to offset that. If you are able to develop a system, a routine, or process to consistently do this every single day, it's almost an impossibility for your business not to grow, for your money flow to increase. Okay. So those are the types of activities that we're talking about. Now, how about for the other areas of your life which have just as much impact to our business? Okay. Other areas of life you want to look at is like health and fitness. Do you have an activity every single day in place that will increase what you call physical health and fitness revenue? Which means what? Working out, eating properly, meditation, stretching, those types of things. Okay. Those are physical health and fitness RPAs. Okay. BBAs for health and fitness would be planning or thinking about it. Okay, those aren't work. I mean, you can you have to obviously plan and think about what your workouts are going to be, but the revenue producing activity when it comes to health and fitness is actually doing the workouts. Okay, how about in your relationship? Okay, do you have milestones in place? Do you have time allocated for you to actually push the relationship forward? Okay. If you're talking about your personal relationships in life, are you allocating time to sit down and connect with your partner? Okay. Or are you just thinking about it? Okay. Planning a vacation is a business building activity when it comes to relationship. Going on vacation and spending time, focused time on your partner is a revenue producing activity when it comes to your relationships. Okay, so it's applicable to not just your business. This is applicable to all areas of life, and that's why I go back to this the term systems will set you free. Now, to address the question of, you know, how do we, for those of us who aren't driven and who aren't acutely designed to live in a systematic or routine way, and literally there are people who are driven by live by the seat of our pants variety type of thing. First and foremost, it makes it a little bit interesting to have that type of a driver and also be an entrepreneur. But that being said, I do have students who are not driven by creating order, who are not driven by creating routines and systems, and yet they still have found a way to create systems around their life, especially with time, so that they've created pockets of time for chaos, pockets of time for variety, pockets of time for doing something new. And they've literally created hours a day where they can freely create and have the freedom of expression and free to do anything they want. But to keep them from derailing their entire business, they've only blocked up certain times of the day so they can still feed that part of them and not compromise that part, and yet still have systems of success in place. Okay. So now how do we then do this? Okay, so remember, the two areas that you want to focus on this week is the areas of time and the activities that you do within those times. Most of us have already been shown a lot about time management. And so one of the big things that you want to focus on this week is dusting off all those systems and processes that you tried and may not have worked on time management. Dusting off those strategies on around activities, creating RPA activities and BBA activities. And what you really want to pay attention to, and this is where we help optimize people on this planet, is you want to not disregard or discount the resistance. You don't say, oh, this is too hard, or, oh, I just can't do that right now. I don't have the time. That's what you want to pay attention to. In order for us to start making this work where it hasn't worked before is because most of us have run away from the pain of what has stopped us. Most of us has run away from the resistance that has stopped us. And what you want to do is when you hit resistance around executing time blocking, around executing a revenue producing activity, around executing a business building activity, what you want to focus on then is on that resistance to identify what that resistance is, why that resistance is there, how you know how your unconscious mind knows how to present that resistance so that you can remove that resistance and actually execute what it is that you actually want to execute. See, the biggest problem is not because the systems don't work. It's not because time blocking doesn't work. It's not because RPAs and BBAs don't work and actually putting those processes in place won't work. Okay? Most of us know already what it takes to remedy our circumstances. It's the resistance that we have placed in front of us, okay? Because the reality of those resistance is extremely subjective. Because if it was universal and is objective, that means every single human being on this planet would have the exact same resistance, which actually isn't true, because you probably know somebody who has time blocked successfully, who has done RPA successfully, who has done BBA successfully, who has been a real estate agent successfully, okay? You have probably know someone who has done that already that doesn't have that resistance. So what that means is you have learned how to use a particular perception of resistance as a resistance to stop you from being able to execute. And so your focus this week is not just to execute the systems around time, the systems around your activities to help you grow your business, health, and life, but it's to pay special close attention to the resistance behind those systems, the execution of those systems. Because in the past, you probably just run away from the resistance. But now let's take this week to focus on that, on the resistance behind executing all these things. When you're able to resolve that, when you're able to identify how you learn to use that as resistance, the stories behind that resistance, that's when true change will start to happen. Permanent, lifetime changes start to happen. That's when you're able to start to really up-level and optimize your entire life. It's time to stop running away from the resistance. It's time to address, acknowledge, become friends with it so that you can renegotiate how we actually use that resistance in our lives. Okay. So, not quite sure. I can see the Q&A button. So I think this is the time where we can open up for some questions about how systems will set you free, questions about the on par statement, pivot, adapt, resilience, maybe questions about, how to set KPIs in certain areas or optimization points, maybe questions around time blocking or RPAs or BBAs. Okay, so go ahead and make sure you go into the Q&A, ask your questions, and then we can open up for that. I'm gonna hit this Q&A button. Are there any questions? No question. I guess it'll alert me if there are questions. Okay, I see there's the chat thing here, but I think that's Matthew and Mark's info. Okay, cool. Are there any questions for those of us who are on, those of us who are still tuned in? Basically, put it into the Q&A box. I know it's a little challenging right now because of, okay, here's one. Pop. That actually is better than Ways Preaching. Thank you for the reminder. Okay. Thanks, Shireen. I don't know if preaching is a good thing, but I'm just gonna take it that it is. Okay, so yeah, it's a fantastic. I mean, and these are the same things that I say to myself every single day. I don't just say these to my students and clients. I'm saying it to myself every single day. And so I, in a way, live and die by my calendar. And I've trained the world around me, including all my team members, that if it's not on my calendar, it ain't real. It ain't gonna happen. And so over the years, it has become, it started off as a joke for a while. It's like, okay, great. But then I literally have my assistant handle my calendar. I'm notorious for double booking. And so once I did that, it completely changed the face of my business. Okay. I utterly fall without my routine and systems and block schedule. I'm floundering of late. Okay. So great. So Shireen, if you find yourself that you are floundering, there is a particular program that is running that is making that okay, that is allowing that to happen. Now, the goal of that program, okay, is the end result of the floundering. Okay. So how you want to explore that if you do want to actually remedy that floundering, so to speak, okay? How many of you out there are also dealing with what Shireen's dealing with? Okay, put a 1 in Q&A if you find yourself floundering, so to speak, when it comes to time management, right, as of late. And it's not an unusual thing because, you know, when unprecedented time happens, a lot of times it's difficult to kind of figure out, okay, what am I supposed to be doing, right? How am I supposed to handle this? Okay, 1, okay, so cool. Lots of ones, okay. So yeah, Shireen, you're not alone in that. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that floundering piece because that will actually, okay, I'm sure a lot of people are dealing with that. If you find yourself having less than ideal circumstances when it comes to managing your time, and you are literally doing what Shireen's talking about, which is floundering, okay? Oftentimes we address the symptom. We only focus on the symptoms. We're focusing on the leaves that have been impacted instead of looking at the root, okay? What's driving that floundering? The floundering is a symptom. It's part of the process because think about what happens. If you flounder long enough, what is the end result of that floundering, okay? We follow that thread so we can get to the root cause. If you flounder long enough, what will happen? And whatever that end result is, was actually the goal of the program, of the story, of the root cause belief that allowed you to flounder to begin with. Now, what I found during these times with students and clients who have dealt with the same challenges, one of them said, I have allowed myself to get lax so that I can make this challenge that the rest of the world is dealing with as real as possible. So I could jump on the bandwagon and say, yes, this pandemic sucks. This set of social circumstances sucks. And if I flounder long enough, and this is their own realization, if I not flounder, but I don't know exactly what word they use, but let's say they did use flounder, but it's something similar to that. It's like if I become lax with, I think they said become lax with their systems, then I can be part of the herd. And so there's a herd mentality, old story that they learned from their childhood that you don't want to rock the boat, okay? You don't want to stand out. And it was interesting because that revealed something that had been holding her back for a really long time. She goes, oh my God, my whole entire business is built around me standing out. And here I am trying to not stand out. No wonder my systems have been challenged during these times. Okay, there's a big herd, almost mob mentality that's happening out there, and if you're not part of it, you things happen. Okay, and so that was an interesting thing. So what you want to do, whatever resistance that you have, you want to follow it through and see what is the intention of that resistance. If you stay in that resistance long enough, what belief is it being? What belief will be validated? Okay. Okay, so let me scroll down here. Okay, so lots of ones. Janet is 2. She's on point. Awesome. You know, it's not to say that everybody is dealing with the same things, right? So some people on chat putting ones. Okay, so cool. So Shireen, does that help? I mean, hopefully that helps in terms of understanding how to address the floundering piece. Okay. Any other questions when it comes to systems that will set you free, time, activities, RPAs, BBAs, okay? If you haven't picked it up already, one of the biggest things that we address here, and one of the most powerful things you could do in your life when it comes to your business, your health, and your relationships, is taking full responsibility. And the closer you can get to 100% responsibility for every circumstance, good, bad, ugly, undesirable, desirable, doesn't matter, the easier it is for you to create significant change in your life. Personal responsibility is something we hear about all the time. 100% personal responsibility is the key to optimal, empowered living. The most successful and happy people in this world are the ones who very rarely engage in the toxic trio of denial, delusion, and blame. More importantly, blame. Okay. And so it's important to kind of recognize the underlying theme about most of everything that we're talking about is helping you, giving you the systems, giving you the exercises, giving you the processes to help you become a master of your life. 100% responsibility of your life is called life mastery. Okay. Let's see. Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay, I see no more pop-ups. Okay. If there are no more questions, but if there are questions later, you guys can always reach out to me. It's way@thesixfigureacademy.com. Okay. You can also, I'm really easy to find. If you just Google me, you can find me, and you can reach out to me either. I mean, I'm not that discerning when it comes to Facebook, so you can friend me on Facebook, and we can continue conversations there. We also have a free prosperity group on Facebook called The Money Lab. A couple of you have joined, and so that's fantastic. So you can always join in on more intimate conversations there if you want to continue conversations. But other than that, you could always send your questions and everything to Nikki as well, and she can always get that over to me. Okay. I think something popped up here. But how is the husky? The husky is fantastic. She's actually laying by my feet right now, Shireen. So that's thanks for asking. All right. So if there are no more questions, I think that's it, Nikki. I think that's good for this week. Hopefully next week our internet is better and we can come back and have a little bit more, I guess, flexibility instead of me staring at this tiny little screen.
Yes, agreed. I hope that the internet is back before next Monday, though.
I know. Oh my goodness.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good week. Thanks, Wei.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.